Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Anthony with Apex, back again with another video. Today, we're gonna go over maintenance. So busy season is right around the corner, so we need to make sure that we have our lawn equipment in tip-top shape. So don't wait until you go to pull it out and it doesn't start, or don't try to do your maintenance mid-season and then you get off schedule with your maintenance period. So the best thing to do is just to get on a schedule, always do it. Maybe it's at the end of the season or before the start of the season. I recommend doing it at the end of the season. That way, when you go to put it away, it's nice and serviced. It has no gas in it. Everything is drained out of it and everything has been serviced out. That way, when you go to start it the next season, it's ready to rock. But let's say, this customer right here, well, he wanted to take care of his maintenance right when the season is right around the corner, but that's all right. We're gonna make sure that we take care of him and give him exactly what he needs. And come along and we'll get started on doing a little maintenance service on this PE 225 or Echo, Edger, or Weed Eater. They're pretty much all the same. If you have a residential model with the orange top like this, then they're all pretty much the same. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, and I also want to point out that if you're going to be servicing your equipment often, so I like to speak in my videos, whether I'm speaking to a mechanic, a small engine mechanic, or a homeowner, but in this case, this is for someone who's always servicing their equipment, so they want, the cheapest and the fastest thing. And in this case, when it comes to doing serviceable items, I don't recommend the Chinese spark plugs, but as far as Chinese air filters and fuel filters, I think they're okay, but in the end, you always want to use OEM whenever you can. They do make maintenance parts pretty cheap to where it's more affordable for people to just replace them than they are to take this fuel filter and brake clean it out and blow it out and service it. They want you to be able to service your equipment to make it last. So in the end, use OEM when you can. And this is for a neighbor of mine who services all his equipment from me, so it's no problem to use some aftermarket stuff in his Edger or in his equipment because I'm gonna be doing it often. But the only downside is they do wear out faster, so you're going to need to replace these things often if you plan to go the Chinese or aftermarket route. So let's get started and see what we can do. Okay, so let's go ahead and start taking this thing apart. So we're just gonna unscrew the air filter cover right here and remove the air filter. It doesn't look too bad, but it is white. I don't know why. Because I'm the one who normally services this, but maybe, I don't know how it got discolored, but either way, we have our new air filter that's gonna go in right there. We'll mess with that a little bit later. What I am noticing is that his fuel line grommet right here is cracked, so that could be a problem. These fuel lines are actually pretty hard as well. So we're gonna go ahead and put a little fuel line kit in this thing. I know I'm pretty sure I put one in this one a few years ago, but either way, let's go ahead and we're gonna do a fuel line kit on this as well. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the fuel cap here and look inside, and there's actually pretty much no gas in it. So let's go ahead and put a fuel line kit in this thing. So I've been seeing a lot of people talk about the HIPAA stuff, so I'm gonna give this a shot and see how this does because it comes with pretty much everything you need, and I will leave a link below. I'm pretty sure I got this on Amazon, but I wanted to give this a shot and see how this kit does. But it literally comes with everything you need, from the air filter, the spark plug, which is a aftermarket spark plug, which I am not a fan of, but this is my neighbor, so if he has a problem, I could just replace it for him anyways. And you're gonna have a couple primer bulbs here, which we'll throw on, and then your fuel line kit. So like I said, this thing comes with everything you need, so you don't have to worry about buying these pieces all separated. The fuel lines these actually feel really good. So there's a balance between aftermarket and OEM. OEM are more rubbery and they last longer, to be honest. The aftermarket are real plasticky and they get brittle very fast, but this aftermarket kit is actually quite nice. It is literally the same elasticity, if you will, as the OEM stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and throw this stuff in. All right, so first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this nut right here. So this is something I like to do, is just get everything out of my way. So I'm just gonna loosen this nut, and then I'm gonna slide this up, and then I'm gonna slide this cable forward and pop it out the front there like so. And then I'm gonna remove the air filter, housing, the carburetor, everything. Okay, so once you have that removed, you could just slide that off, set that to the side, and now we're gonna go ahead and pry up this grommet out of there, and that way we can detach all of this stuff here. All right, so I'm just going to take a pretty blunt tip screwdriver, more of a thicker one there, and I'm just gonna pry this little grommet out of that hole. So working it from all the sides here, and I'm gonna use the fuel cap to kind of pry it off of that without breaking it. So once you get it started, it'll go the rest of the way. Go ahead and remove our little gasket there. And go ahead and take out that fuel filter as well. And then this thing will just basically work its way out. Okay, so now that we have it pried out, and you can see how just hardened these fuel lines are. Look at how it doesn't even fall. Look how stiff this is. And these things are super long. I don't think I put a fuel line kit in this one because number one, these fuel lines, they're supposed to be different colored. The return line is usually yellow, and they're not supposed to be this far in the tank, but either way, we're gonna put a new kit on it, and it has a newer primer bulb. He must have put that on, but we'll go ahead and get this fuel line kit put on. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remove the fuel lines from the carburetor here, and I'm gonna use the steel tool. The part number is right there if you want this part number or this tool here. And it's actually for limiter caps, but I use it for fuel lines as well. It does a very good job with removing fuel lines. So we're just going to remove both of those right there. And then that's out of the way, out with the old and in with the new. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide this return line up just a little bit here. All right, now I'm gonna take a paper towel here or a shop towel, whatever you wanna use, and I'm just going to clean off the ring around where the grommet went. So get all that debris off of there, and then we'll go ahead and throw in our fuel line. Okay, now for the hard part. This is the hardest thing for most people. So you're just going to just throw the fuel filter in there like so, and just make sure it goes to the center of the tank there. And then we're going to be able to, we're gonna pry this thing back into place. And I'm not gonna lie, it is even hard for me who's done thousands of these. But make sure that you have your return line on the outside facing you if you have it positioned like how I do. And it doesn't really matter, but it keeps the fuel lines from being twisted like that if you put them in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and I wanna start on the back side there. So once I get the back side in, then I'll work the other side. And let me bring y'all in for a different vantage point here. Okay, this is pretty hard to get a visual of, but just take my word for it. Just kind of look where you can, but it's hard not to block this small area with my hands. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pry on this top ridge right here and push it into the tank. So, and then I'm just gonna work my way around, but you wanna start on the back side. So get the back side in first, and then start pushing on that rib there and shoving it right into the tank. Okay, so kind of wanting to walk away from me, but I'm just going to keep that downward pressure there and keep shoving it in there. It's got to be tight because you don't want fuel leaking out of this. Okay. And then once you get basically the whole thing in, you're just going to press down with your fingers here and push it the rest of the way. So I'll use my screwdriver and shove it in the rest of the way. Okay, like so. All right, and now that we have it in, it is perfect just like that. And something I like to do is grab it with pliers and twist it around a little bit, and it's going to work itself in just like that. So now I know that thing is seated in there properly. Now we're going to take our tank vent here and we're just going to snap it under the recoil right here, like that. All right, and so now the return line, to know which line goes to where, always push the primer bulb, and whichever one it squirts out of, that's your return line going to the tank. So we're just going to connect the return line to that one because that's where it sprayed out of. And then I'll take some pliers here and just work it all the way up there, just like this. And then I'll do the same thing with the other one, the pickup line. And just take your time. Don't try to rush it or force anything. Nice and easy. And I'm trying to do this without like getting a good vantage point because I want y'all to have the better vantage point. So it's a little sacrifice I make for filming. So I may make it look a little bit harder because I'm trying to stay back so y'all can have a good visual, but I promise it's not that hard. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and connect our cable there. What I like to do is slide it in first like that to where it's in the slot, and then I will put the cable over into the anchored position like so. Okay, and now I'm just going to turn it and make it tight here. So we're going to tighten up on this nut here like so. And then we will put our housing back on. Now as for this here, the arrow points up, so you can see it makes a little arrow right there. Just make sure that's pointing up and you'll be good to go. So we'll slide our screws right through there and then put our gasket on the back side there and then slide it on. Both are, and you don't have to use a power tool, but if you want to, go for it. But it does take some experience. And just like that, it is on. And that is a T27 Torx bit to put those things in. So now it has a primer bulb, a newer primer bulb, so I'm not going to charge them to replace them. So we'll just keep these extra ones for later on down the road. All right, and this thing did come with a new spark plug, so we'll go ahead and remove this one. Okay, so I'm going to take my 3/4 inch socket here and a little ratchet, and we're just going to remove this spark plug here. Just like so. And this has a OEM plug, so no problem. We'll throw in our aftermarket because I want to try this HIPAA stuff. Like, I've been seeing a lot of videos on them, so who knows? It could be good stuff. You could be getting something really good for a cheap price. And we're all about saving money, but we're not about cutting corners. So there you go. We got it tightened down there. Now we'll connect our spark plug boot. We'll go ahead and throw in our new air filter here. And what we're gonna wanna do is any gas that's in there, I think there's a little bit in there. I like to leave a little bit in there as well. So when I do change out that grommet, that little bit of debris will fall into the gas, and then when I go to dump it out, it gets thrown out with the old gas. All right, so go ahead and put our air filter cover on here, and then we'll tighten this thing back up. Right there, and that is all she wrote for this thing. So that covered the fuel lines, it covered the fuel filter, covered the air filter, covered the spark plug, and primer bulb. If it needed to be replaced, we would have replaced that as well. Now we'll go ahead and check our pull cord, make sure that's looking nice. So We'll go ahead and pull this thing out. Make sure there's no frays in the line or anything like that, because you would hate to go for your first pull of the season and it pulls the handle right off. So let's go ahead and inspect our spark arrestor next. And so to do this, you're gonna wanna take off this cover here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this cover. It makes it easier to access it. Okay, there's another screw on the top here. We'll pull that off. And then we will slide this cover off, but I'm gonna remove the spark plug boot here. That way this thing can slide off. And there's also a couple wires down the bottom right here. Not sure if y'all can see those, but just pop those out of that little slot there, and this thing will come right off. And then we'll put our wire through the cover there, and that way we can slide this thing right off. All right, and our spark arrestor is right under this little cover here, so we're just gonna remove all these T27 screws. Like so. And then we will pry this thing up here. Set that bad boy to the side, and now we'll take off this big gasket. And oh, this is actually a catalytic converter, but it does have a spark arrestor in it, but it does have a catalytic converter in there. So our spark arrestor is right here, and as you can see, it is not bad at all. So we'll go ahead and set that back on there, and we don't need to service it or anything. And we'll throw our gasket back over the top there. And then we'll set our cover back in place. And then we'll put our screws back in. So if you needed to clean the spark arrestor, simply just take a wire brush to it and make sure that you can see through it by the time you're finished. Okay, got that tightened down. Now I'm going to go ahead and spin this thing around here again. And we'll go ahead and throw our cover over the top, like so. And then we will throw our wires down in that slot again, that's down in here. So I'm just going to press it into its slot. And then our plastic screw is going to go down here. And then our other plastic screw is going to go over here. And then we will throw our spark plug boot on, and then we'll gas it up and fire it up. All right, and one last thing. The last thing you're going to inspect is your blade. Make sure it's plenty long enough, and inside the cover there, you're going to want to clean out all that gunk that gets packed in there, and make sure you clean that out when you go to start it up. And we'll go ahead and keep the blade. I don't think it needs a new one just yet. Got plenty of life left on that one, so we'll leave the blade as is. So we'll go ahead and clean this thing out here and get all this hard dirt out of there. Like so. All right, now let's see how this thing runs. So we'll prime the heck out of it here. Get some good squirts out of it. We'll turn it to on, flip the choke up. Started one pull, put it down. perfect. And I call that right there a success and a little tune-up on this PE 225 Edger. All right, you guys, that is all she wrote for this job here, a simple tune-up. I charge about $80 to do the whole tune-up, including parts and everything. So that little kit, I will put how much that costs right here. And again, I got it from Amazon, and the thing actually ran very, very well. So it seems like a much better fuel line kit than the other aftermarket one that was in it. So I want to see how this one does. Again, this is for a neighbor, but if I'm doing this for an actual customer, I'm going to try to use as many OEM parts as possible. I am not a fan of any of the aftermarket spark plugs, so I will say that. So I'm excited to see how long this one lasts, or if he has any issues with it. I'll make sure I get some feedback. So again, this is the first time I'm using a whole HIPAA kit in this machine here, and I may do a few more of them. Like I said, I like the fuel line kit that it had. I like the quality of it. The air filter seems much better. The spark plug actually seemed and it didn't look aftermarket. So I'm excited to see that. And that is pretty much all she wrote for this job here. So again, charge 80 bucks. If I was to just do this, get this in and get it knocked out, usually take me 10 to 15 minutes. So, and then another probably $15 or whatever I paid for the tune-up kit. So in the end, I mean, almost $60 to $70 in just 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're wanting to get into small engine repair, I highly recommend it. I try to make my videos for those who are mechanics and those who are homeowners. So hopefully this video helped someone out there. If it did, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.